Wisconsin is going back to work.
I'm Steve Walters.
And I'm J.R. Ross.
This is Rewind, WisconsinEye's summary of this week in the Capitol. Before we list 10 hot bills that didn't pass, we want to talk about some developments this week. Number one, the governor went to Cecil. If you don't know where that is, I didn't either. It's in Shawano County to sign his $500 million tax cut. That will show up, and there will also be, effective next week, on April 1, lower tax withholding tables, but that's good news. The bad news is that'll cut your refund next spring. Also, Democratic candidate for governor Mary Burke made public her jobs plan. JR, how would Governor Mary Burke create jobs?
Well, she's talking about taking a business-like approach to creating jobs. So she's talked about things like setting goals, creating a path to achieve them, and if you're not on the right path, correcting it. That's a little bit of a, kind of an elbow, if you will, at Governor Walker for the 250,000 jobs pledge without really getting there.
She didn't give a number, did she?
No, not as far as we know.
Excuse me.
But she talked about things like quadrupling the venture capital fund. She talked about Dem priorities like increasing the minimum wage, which Republicans will tell you would cost jobs. But she kind of hit some safe Democratic themes, promising to veto anything that would restrict stem cell research, promising to change the venture capital fund so that you can invest in life sciences, things that these are good Democratic messages, while also taking good elbow at Governor Walker because she said, look, I got a 40-page plan that the Republicans have been hammering on her on for months for not having. He had this 4-page plan in 2010 that I think she said, I've seen 8th grade term papers with more thought put into it.
Yeah, that was a Rami comment.
A little aggressive. But so she's kind of putting some themes out there now. Republicans will tell you that, look, this plan is pretty familiar because it's partially our plan too. Governor Walker's doing all this stuff already, so. And there might not be new ground being broken in that plan just yet.
Very quick follow-up, JR. Is she showing more confidence as a Democratic candidate? Do you see her?
Talking to people, she looked much different in that appearance this week on Mike Goucher's On the Issues than she did in interviews back in October when we were first doing them with her one-on-one. Much more confident, relaxed, and throwing some more elbows, if you will, than what she had been previously.
New poll today: Walker 41, Walker 48, Burke 41. Mm-hmm. Not much change from the last poll.
In January?
Yeah, thank you. But the governor is, so there's not much change, but the governor is still not at 50%. Is that a big deal?
Yes. The thing is, he's locked in. I mean, he is rock steady at 47-48. The interesting thing is that this poll was taken after the RGA, Republican Governors Association, began its more than $1 million ad buy. Now, Burke's been up in the air, too. Governor Walker had a short buy as well. But the RGA is kind of dominating that conversation on the air. But we're not seeing his numbers jump dramatically. We're also not seeing hers go down a whole lot. So why is that? One thing I heard was that she needs to start spending money in big amounts to raise her numbers. That's the whole key here. Governor Walker is defined. He's entrenched. Either you love him or hate him. There's no two ways about that. Yep. But Mary Burke is undefined a little bit still. She needs to raise her profile. And the way that happens is by spending money. Yeah, she's been on the campaign trail for 5 months, but unless it's on the air with 1,000 points behind it, it's not really moving people in Wisconsin. Right,
and it's also important to say that that new poll was taken before she came out with the jobs plans. Okay, let's list 10 bills that in the mishmash aren't going to make it. I'm going to go first. AB 389 would have raised the speed limit to 70 miles per hour on interstates and freeways. I looked up who opposed this, and it was news to me, opposed by Martin Transport and Schneider National. Green Bay and Mondovi, Fox Valley, Western Wisconsin. I think that may have played a key role. Probably didn't also hurt that Majority Leader Fitzgerald's dad runs the state patrol.
That the committee that got that bill couldn't get majority support to get it out in the Senate. That's part of their problem too.
Okay, your turn.
AB 110, a pilot program to limit what people can buy with food stamps. This is one of those kind of, we call them talk show bills, where it gets people chattering about what you can and can't buy with food stamps, which is a program that some people kind of associate with poverty, and we should kind of limit this, rein it in. But the implementing it would have been just a nightmare. Yeah. And the grocers weren't very happy about this idea because it just would have been so difficult to kind of have somebody in line to say you can have that, you can't have that. It just would have been kind of impractical.
Right. My turn. SB 308. It would have reversed a decision made 25 years ago to charge 17-year-olds who are accused of crimes as adults. I've had discussions with Representative Fred Kessler, former Milwaukee judge, who was part of the change 25 years ago. He says we got it wrong. But the Wisconsin Counties Association says that would cost us big monies to expand our juvenile courts, so it didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, AB 216, prohibiting state insurance plans for covering abortion, and 217, prohibiting sex selection abortions. These are two of those bills that the Assembly passed,
Yes.
and the clocks are running down toward the end of the session and getting closer to election time.
Yes.
And the senators went, we don't want to deal with this stuff right now. And to be quite honest, Governor Walker has kind of made clear through the course of the session, I don't want to deal with this controversial stuff. Let's focus on jobs and the economy. What's his message always? Governor, what about with this bill? I'm focused about jobs and the economy. This is one that, they just don't want to deal with, especially after doing the ultrasound bill last year with the admitting privileges requirement for abortion providers. So they feel like they've kind of done it already.
This was one kind of stopped by Ellis, who faces a challenge from Representative Penny Bernard Shaver, Luther Rosens, things like that. But its champion, Senator Grothman, Senator Vootmeier.
Yeah, they'll probably be back with it again sometime before too long.
Okay. My turn. Assembly passed package, the Representative Jim Ott package of tougher laws on drunk drivers, and there was absolutely no debate on making first offense OWI a crime. Opponents argued that the changes would cost a lot, and they continue to say the focus should be on repeat offenders, since a very high percentage of first-time offenders don't make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Is that your read on why that was blocked?
That plus the high BACs.
Yeah.
I mean, you might see at some point an effort to make first offense OWI a crime if it's a very high BAC. But the other thing that Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald on the floor last week talked about judges not wanting to be the loser flexibility. So I mean, that's one argument they've raised about this as well. But also, we clog the courts in their minds. We have a drinking and driving culture in Wisconsin,
Yes,
and there's
we
an
do.
issue with that.
Yep. Your turn.
SB 205 and SB 385, these are bills that required annual audit at WEDC and give the board the power to appoint the top positions. I mean, this is an agency that's had some issues, some growing pains, if you will, early going. It's getting its footing, the backers will tell you, and kind of righting the ship. But there are still folks who want to see more accountability, and it just didn't go anywhere in the Assembly.
I was really surprised that bill got lost, given the fallout from the audit, and at one time there was zeal, let's have these bills, but you're right, it did get lost. That's a good example. My turn. Limiting the power of local governments to regulate sand mines. Local officials ripped the first version of this bill. You continue to erode local control. So lobbyists, sand businesses offered a second plan, and I thought it had a chance until the Wisconsin Towns Association put a fork in it. Agree?
Yeah, they were neutral to begin, and that gave it hope. But the second they said we're opposed, that pretty much nixed the bill. AB 493, this is the voter ID fix that the Assembly passed and the Senate wanted nothing to do with. Governor Walker's also called, for this bill to be done.
That's the Indiana fix, right?
Essentially, you would go into the polling place and you would sign an affidavit saying you don't have an ID because you either are too poor to get one, you have a religious objection to getting one, or you lack the documents to get one.
Yep.
So it would give you an avenue if you don't have an ID to get to cast your ballot. Those ballots would be kind of marked and you could be challenged, et cetera. The issue is, in the Senate, they want to see the courts say first before they act, which
Right.
might bring the prospect of a special session this summer, June, July, possibly to
true.
take a voter ID.
Walker said, depending on the court ruling, he might call a special session. My last one, SB 508, would have allowed workers to work 7 straight days without a day off, offered by Senator Grothman. Labor unions and other employees called this, a workhouse, cruel and unusual punishment. It got public hearings, but it didn't go anywhere. I think it just collapsed, right? Agree?
I didn't know it was a crime to work 7 days a week.
Understand. Okay, you got the final one, my friend?
The Common Core response to create this, basically state-based board for state-based standards for
Yes.
state education. As I said, state a lot because they're really stressing about Wisconsin standards. But essentially, Republicans could get on the same page when it comes to accountability, Common Core, like what to do. It was an issue that fell apart, and we maybe will see it next session.
Yeah. Okay. JR, time for WisPolitics stock report, please.
Rising cancer patients. I mean, this oral chemotherapy bill that looked dead in the water a couple weeks ago
Yep, we
got
talked about
life,
that.
got amended. Now it's going to pass. Alberta Darling, co-author, came out earlier this week and said, I'm good with the changes. Let's do this. Fitzgerald's office says we're going to do it. And even Chris Larson, the minority leader, said, let's pass this bill.
Does it get the 30-2 vote it got when it first passed?
Not sure. There are a couple of Dems who aren't happy about the changes, but I don't know if it's enough to pull them off the bill in the end.
That changes the $100 monthly copay.
Yes.
Excuse me, you're mixed.
Ask me. So public employee unions have been having some hard times lately. They've
Yeah.
lost money because of the Act 10 changes. They're looking at the 3 councils merging. Now, it's a little bit different from WEAC and AFT. We're talking 2 separate unions that have kind of had a little bit of, I don't want to say power struggle, but they're not really. They haven't really worked together. Sometimes they've had like little turf wars. AFSCME is in one house, but it's a reality of the new world order with Act 10 that there's not enough resources to do. Maybe not to do 3 separate councils. Why not combine power and try and get the best deal you can going forward?
That's a good mix. Falling.
Bill Kramer. I mean,
not going to run again.
No, that was, that's one thing. You're talking about the political fallout there, where the allegations of what happened in Washington, D.C., the fundraising trip, we knew that he had no real political future. This kind of put the final stamp on that he's not going to run for election this fall. Speaker Voss had said, I'm not going to call him to resign, but I don't think he should run again. So that wasn't a shock. The bombshell was this new legal case coming out about possible sexual assault charge. We're talking
potential
whole new territory.
criminal.
Yeah, we're talking whole new territory with Kramer. There are no details, so we can't really speculate what's in there. But we're talking serious stuff.
Wow. Yeah, that's a good choice for falling. Okay, that's Rewind for this week. I'm Steve Walders.
And I'm J.R. Ross.
And J.R., have a great week off next week.
Thank you very much.